Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Hawk families. Whatever time of day you happen to be viewing this, but thank you for taking part in viewing our fall parent meeting here for 2020. Obviously, this fall is going to be a lot different than what it has been, but I appreciate all your guys' grace and patience as we've worked through all this, not only in the summer, into the off-season stuff, but now going forward. So I'll try to make this and try to respect everybody's time to try to keep this to 30 minutes tops. I do have Mr. Baker from our 8-9 AD from Southview on this parent meeting, as well as Josh Ferry, our athletic trainer from Ankeny PT. So we'll go through this and we will go ahead and kind of go through step by step. We are recording this and it will be posted later on. Again, I thank you guys for taking part of this. So with that said, we'll go ahead and hop right in. Our goals for this is to make sure that you guys know who we all are. My name is Andy Umphin. I'm the athletic director and activities director here at Ankeny High School. And we'll kind of go through some of the things. We'll talk to our athletic trainer about some injury prevention and care, especially some changes with the COVID as well. Gain of understanding about eligibility, how we deal with issues or concerns as they come up, and as well as our finances through activities office. Also, I think the COVID-19 guidelines and restrictions pertaining to fall sports, I know that's where we're going to probably have to spend a lot of our time this evening on. But again, feel free to reach out to any of us with questions after viewing this. And finally, this won't be done today after this, but all of our coaches will be doing individual parent and program meetings for all of you so that you're able to get program specific details as they pertain to your sport. Just kind of run through our head varsity coaches going into the fall. Shauna Murray is our cheerleading moderator. Michelle Stout is our swimming and diving head coach. Eric Killensmith is our girls cross country. Dave Wims for volleyball. Dallas Ott is in her second year of running our dance program. Mike Weddingfeld will be running our boys golf, John Lindeman for boys cross country, and Mr. Rick Nelson running our football program as head coaches. So again, I've already mentioned my name. You'll see Tom Day on this as our event manager. We'll kind of go over his roles, responsibilities, and how to contact him as well. And then Sarah Murphy, who is our activities secretary here in this office here at the high school. You'll hear from Mr. Baker here in a little bit, but he runs our 8-9 activities departments over at Southview with his assistant, Mary Arnold. For contact in our offices, Sarah and Mary are always going to be your first phone contact. They're always going to be there to help you direct your call, maybe answer direct questions you may have. Also, they're going to help boost your parent rep schedule meeting, room or facilities, preparing programs, oversee season awards for coaches, and they will also do those type of things with setting up camps and clinics and scholarships. So those are always going to be your first contact, and typically the ones that answer the phones here in our offices. Tom Day is our events manager, and he's going to be the person to contact if you have any questions regarding our transportation, what that schedule may look like, or maybe some issues or concerns that may come up with that. And we will address what that looks like with COVID-19 later on in this presentation. If you need a table set up for an event or a fundraising activity or something else that might be happening here on campus, Tom Day will be your contact for that. If you are also able to volunteer work at an event, contact Tom Day as well, whether that's running the scoreboard, announcing, taking tickets, helping concessions, etc. Tom Day is your man and contact for that. And Tom Day, along with Sarah Murphy, will also be the help with the physical and concussion information, as well as Mr. Baker and Mary down at Southview. This will be our second year that we've been doing all physicals and concussion forms be uploaded online electronically through our schools. Everybody should have a profile set up at this time, even if you're coming in new from Southview this year. That practice was done down at Southview as well. So hopefully this will be a little bit smoother process. Typically physicals are good for 13 months from the date they were last given. Due to COVID and a waiver from the governor, physicals are now going to be accepted through December 31st of 2020 if they were given on or after July 1st of 2019. And if you need any clarification on that, again, don't be afraid to contact Sarah Murphy or Tom Day here in this office. The one thing I do want to be clear on, though, the concussion forms are only good for 12 months, and those still need to be updated annually, and those are still going to be done electronically on the RSchool format. So at this time, I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Baker, our AD over at Southview, to touch base a little bit on happenings at Southview and just some other general things. So go ahead, Mr. Baker.
Thanks for having me today, Mr. Umpton, and I will keep this brief. The big thing that I want to point out, or the big things I want to point out, really at Southview through the 8th and 9th grade programs is about participation, retention, and player/coach development. We want your kids involved in multiple activities. We want them to be multi-activity students, so they're involved not only in our athletics programs, but in our activities and club programs as well. Any 9th grade information that you might have questions about should be addressed at Southview. And any of the people that we can contact over here, which would include Mr. Meyer might have the principal, or assistant principal Chris Novak, or associate principal Nikki Heidemann, and then Secretary Mary Arnold or myself. All of our coaches are going to be pretty diligent on giving you practice times, when practice will start and when practice will be over. Might look a little bit different this year. The important thing is to respect the coach's personal lives and really your family personal lives, so that if the coach says practice is over at 6 o'clock, I would appreciate you're there to pick up your kids by 6 or 6:05, so that our coaches can be leave at a reasonable time as well. Depending on how this looks this fall, the plans are to have our weight room open after school from 3:45 to 5 each Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But again, that's going to be based on what the next couple of weeks looks like as we work through our COVID-19 practices and safe practices for our athletes and our students waiting to participate in winter and spring sports that might want to use the weight room as well. Always feel free to contact me over at Southview. My information was given earlier, and you can always find that on the website as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Baker, for that information and all you do over at Southview to create great opportunities for our kids. I'm just going to touch real briefly on some athletic department philosophies, and then we'll kind of get into some of the additional information, and we'll hear from our athletic trainer as well. So obviously, we're really big on the Trust Family Believe Hawks. I really think it's important that we do everything we can to create a great opportunity and basic enrichment for our kids in activities, which I think is a really big proponent of the entire academic experience for our Hawk and Hawkettes. And I think activities play a big role in that, which is why I'm very passionate about what I do. I think the big thing is that we're able to support one another, and it takes, it's going to take all three of us groups, the players and participants, parents, and then our coaches in this office in the activities department to create that great atmosphere that we need. And I think if we're all able to work and communicate well together, and that we can build a good trust with all of us, and that we're all committed to the same common goal, I know that we're going to have great experiences for our kids, and we're going to have great outcomes as they go along. We're coming off of, a crazy year, but man, there was so much to be proud of. A state championship in color guard, making to the semis in volleyball, quarterfinals in football, state qualifiers in cross country, in golf, and winning the state title in basketball, having state championships on the wrestling mats, best in class at show choir, all state honors in choir and bands, just the list goes on. And most recently, our baseball going back to state tournament at Principal Park, through all the COVID restrictions, and making it to the finals and being runner up in 4A this year. So we're really coming off of a lot of great things. And my second year as AD, I'm really excited about what we have going on now and going forward. Just a couple things about eligibility. Obviously, normally, they need to pass all classes, and an F would result in a 30-day suspension if they have a failing class at the end of the semester. Now, due to COVID and everything that's happened here in recent months, the governor has waived all eligibility. So anybody that had academic ineligibility that would have carried over to this school year has been waived. So there will be no ineligibility due to academics due to the governor's waiver of those, assuming that the opportunity was missed to work those off in the spring. Also, to go along with that, good conduct policies are still going to be enforced. Obviously, we will take into account if there was a missed opportunity to work some good conduct policy off in the spring. But with that said, we still feel that there's need to be some accountability for good conduct that has happened. First offense is always going to be 1/3 of plane dates or 1/6 if the student self-reports. Second offense is always going to be 2/3 of plane dates. There is no self-reporting, reduction possible for a second offense. And there may be some other additional things that are required for them to complete this good conduct before eligibility can resume. And if there is a third offense of the good conduct policy, that will result in 1 calendar year ineligibility of activities. Attendance, obviously we're gonna have daily reports. Obviously this is gonna look a lot different with our hybrid plan that has been put in place by our district. So again, I really appreciate everyone's patience and grace through this. I think there will be a lot more communication that will be needed between the school, yourselves, and our coaches to make sure that we are holding kids accountable to be where they're supposed to, but also ensure that they're not missing any practices and that they're also not exposing anyone if they are sick as well. So I think this will be something we'll all need to make sure that we're communicating together with everyone. And again, just contact Mrs. Tina Chrisman here at school, and also you can always contact our office at either here or Southview to make sure that we're aware if there is some situation that might result in them not being at school. If there's always exceptions to the rule on attendance, obviously funerals, college visits, those are the type of things that can be excused, but have to have prior approval from this office. So make sure if that is something that is going to happen that you contact myself here in this office. I will not read this whole thing here. This will be available for public viewing. This slideshow will be, but basically just reminding students about awards rule. If you're planning something in off season, if there is any type of value reward put in there that exceeds $50, you risk the opportunity of maybe being eligible for activities through the Iowa High School Athletic Association or the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union. So just to make sure you're aware of that. And if you're participating, something you have a question on, I'd be more than happy to clarify it through email or a phone call. Not a problem at all. Also, that goes along with competing at a professional or collegiate level. Be sure and be careful the type of things that you're participating in the off season, because that could also harm your eligibility. And again, that's something I'd be more than happy to clarify or check into if you have questions or concerns about a particular event your son or daughter may be participating in. And then finally, just some recruiting clearinghouse information for NCAA. I won't go through all these things, but just make sure you guys understand that your grades are going to matter. Whatever level you're playing on or think you might be going to, whether it's D1, D2, NAI, or D3, or JUCO even, your grades are going to matter. So make sure that you're taking care of that and create a great academic athletic resume by taking care of your business in the classroom as well as on the playing arena. Make sure you understand the class that you are going to need, to play at the collegiate level. D1 and D2 have 16 core courses, which I've listed on the right-hand side. Just make sure you understand this. And again, this is always something that I love to try to help students out. So if there's a student athlete that has questions, tell them to feel free to come in here, and I'd love to clarify any questions or help with this process, because I know this can be quite daunting. So a couple things here. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Vera, athletic trainer. Obviously, there's going to be some times where some conflicts are going to arise, and I just want to make sure we all handle it the right way. I think we need to understand that we have that positive support at home of our programs and coaches. I think that's what's going to be best for all of our programs. Obviously, there's going to be some times where maybe yourself or your son or daughter may not agree with maybe some things that are happening within the program. If that happens, I strongly encourage you to contact coaches. I want to be clear that there is no penalizing kids for desire to ask questions, to seek some answers. I encourage that, and I hope that our coaches' communication is well to where we can have a lot of things cleared up. But again, make sure we're willing to have those conversations. But we do want to make sure that those conversations are constructive and they are directed about your particular son or daughter, not other individuals, because that's something we need to focus on, your son or daughter only. I think, the first couple steps should be able to take place by talking with coaches and whatnot. But obviously, if there's still some issues, feel free to contact myself, and I'm always happy to be part of any of those meetings to help, manage and facilitate those meetings as well. Like I said, I don't expect things to go perfect all the time. Ultimately, I think we're all trying to get to the same page and making our programs the best that they can be. And I do know emotions run high through a lot of our activities. So I do encourage all of us to practice the 24-hour rule policy. I just have that in place because I think you make a lot better decisions after you're able to sleep on some things that may have you fired up. I think when you have the opportunity to sit on it for 24 hours, I think you're able to come at it a little bit more rationally, but also look at all points of view. And, I think meetings can be a lot more constructive when that 24-hour rule is in place. And again, I think we're all, again, at the end of the day, trying to get to the same goal. So let's make sure that any conversation we do have, they're respectful and they are constructive, again, because I think every coach is trying to make decisions that best benefit the team based on what they see daily in practice, abilities, attitude, and team chemistry. Those are all factors that come into that. So last thing here, and I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Berry. Reminder, just equipment uniform accountability. We have to make sure that students are accountable for the uniforms and equipment. Student athletes, obviously, we're going to be forced to assess some type of fine to replace anything that may be lost or damaged. So just make sure that we're all doing our part to take care of things. Obviously, wear and tear and things happen, and we don't want to have to do this, but there may be some situation where this may come into effect. So with that said, I'm going to turn things over to our athletic trainer here at Ankeny High School in Southview here, Josh Berry.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. It's good to be back. Hope you guys are all doing well. This first slide is just an intro with my basic contact information. I have my email address and my cell phone. The quickest way to get a hold of me is obviously my cell phone, and I'll working with your kids. Hopefully, we can communicate on a good basis of what's going on here at Ankeny High School with sports medicine and that aspect. I have a couple slides further down in this PowerPoint that go into more specifics about my room, and they also touch on our new protocol for our concussions with having to create a new creative plan since the hybrid learning plan is what we're going to be going with school. So like I said, this is my contact information. Make sure you have this in your phone. Sometimes I'm calling parents and it's a number they don't have, and if you're able to write this down, that'd be a lot more helpful so I don't have to leave a voicemail for you guys and get back to you as quick as possible. So if you want to get the next slide there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we're going to hop into a little bit of our COVID guidance now, and I know Mr. Berry is going to jump in. We're going to go back and forth here a little bit. But this is just something I pushed out on social media, just some of our main top guidelines that we need to make sure that we're all focusing on so that we can keep our fall activities going and then hopefully continue on to our winter and spring as well. I think the big things, stay home if you're feeling sick and contact your coach, especially if you have a temp greater than 100.3. We've been doing the daily screening on Varsity Bon. That will continue this fall. Most of you have probably already been doing a lot of this. I know our cross country, volleyball, football have all been doing this, and I know golf will be starting this. Basically, it's a daily screening to try to help keep people away if they do have potential symptoms so that we can try to avoid massive program shutdowns whenever possible. We're also going to try to keep levels separated as much as possible to, again, hopefully stop mass program shutdowns and maybe only have to shut down programs by level that have exposures. So that's kind of where that's at. Social distancing, 6 feet whenever possible. The instruction we're always telling our coaches, if they have to do something that kids have to be within 6 feet, that we ask that they wear a mask and that they try to keep that activity within under 15 minutes. Bring your own water bottle, bring your own hand sanitizer, face covering, wash your hands and sanitize frequently. Make sure we're communicating pre-existing health conditions with Josh Berry, athletic trainer, or our nurse here at the high school, Rebecca Nogard, or down at Southview, Rachel Borick. They've been doing a great job helping us manage this as well, especially Rachel. She's really stepped up this summer to help manage our summer sports with baseball, softball. Please make sure we're staying home. If you've been in contact, anybody that is positive, and make sure that you're contacting us right away, again, to help ensure that we're not having any type of shutdown within our programs. And facilities will be cleaned and disinfected daily. And we really ask, like I kind of mentioned, face coverings. Josh, you have anything to add on this one with guidelines?
No, I think you touched it pretty well. I know that Varsity Bon App that we use is very helpful. It shows us if someone does have a failed questionnaire. Our coaches are doing a great job of checking those every single morning for practice. Those things are shot out early in the morning too for every day. So our coaches and nursing staff have done a great job. And if you do get a chance to talk to your kids while they're filling that out and they do have a failed test, you as parents can also help us out by saying, hey, it's probably the best idea not to go to practice today. And we can tell coach, hey, we had a failed questionnaire, and I'll probably be in contact with you, or Rachel will be in contact with you about symptoms that are going on and seeing if it's necessary or not to go get tested.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Josh.
Yep.
So as we go through this, obviously participation in any of our activities isn't optional. I say that because I want to be sure. I don't want anybody to feel, if they're uncomfortable, if they have pre-existing conditions with themselves or maybe with a family member at home. Obviously, we want to probably take some extra precautions with those type of situations. So, and again, if you have any concerns, we're always available to call our athletic trainers, our nurses, Mike or myself, Sarah, Tom, anybody here in our offices are more than happy to help address any concerns you have. We kind of talk about the Varsity Bon App. We are not letting people inside the complexes or things if they have not completed this. There may be situations where if technology fails us, we do have paper copies and thermometers on site to handle it if we have to do it in person. But obviously, Varsity Bon is going to be the preferred method and used unless there's a technological issue, because it is contactless that way, which is why we're gonna push that more than not. And students, again, need to bring their own water bottle and face coverings and hand sanitizer to keep our activities going. And again, none of this stuff is fun or exciting, but these are the things that we need to do to try to help ensure that we are able to complete our fall season like we were able to for summer. At any given time, we may be forced to shut down camps, practices, or workouts due to maybe exposures, and we do everything in collaboration, Polk County Public Health. If they tell us to shut down, we got to shut down. We don't really have a lot of flexibility, and I don't think anybody would be comfortable with us going against Polk County Public Health, the state health department, or the CDC. So we're always going to follow that to a T. And if they tell us we have to shut things down by program or school-wide, that we're obviously going to do that. We are going to allow team meals, but they are going to be restricted to individual box meals from a licensed vendor and media distributed by such as well. We're not going to have any spectators at practice just to help us with some of the mitigation issues that we can have. Then we know we only have to worry about, what our players and coaches are going to be at. And if you are transporting a kid, we ask you to wait in your car as they do that. For transportation to events, we are going to have the bus limited to 2 per seat, but the face covering will be required. If that is something you're not comfortable with, either the face covering or the amount of people in the bus, you can opt out and transport yourself to activities. But this is how we will handle transportation to school activities and events. We are probably going to have some fan limitations for our fall events, but this is a work in progress right now. So that is something that is still yet to be determined on what that's going to look like, because we're trying to figure out the best way to keep everybody safe, follow guidelines, while trying to still get as many people to enjoy our activities as possible. So be patient with us on that, and we will get that information out to everybody as soon as possible. I don't want to say next week for sure, but I'm hoping we have some things ironed out by then. Stay home if you're sick. Like I mentioned, contact your coach and nurses. Do the thing, avoid touching your face, sanitize and wash your hands frequently. Just do these type of things as much as possible and practice social distancing. I know I sent a letter out earlier this week, really just asking everybody to try to do their part on their own time as well. I think our coaches and, our offices have done a lot to try to mitigate things and to try to follow guidelines the best that we can. So we're just asking for everybody's help to try to do that as much as possible on their own time as well, to help, again, ensure that we can, have our fall seasons from start to finish, not only for fall, but also into our winter and spring. we have a lot more challenges this fall compared to summer with returning to school, the amount of more activities we have, and the larger numbers in these activities between bands, football, cross country, swimming. We just have a lot of, boys golf. We just have a lot more hurdles to overcome than we did this summer, as well as returning to school, which obviously academics is the priority. And so we also want to make sure that everything we do is to help not to jeopardize that. Do not share other people's equipment. I do have a link on here for that questionnaire. That's the same questions that are on the Varsity Bon App. If you have any, if you're not quite sure what that looks like, I do include this link here. And again, this slideshow will be posted separately from this video as well. And again, make sure we're notified right away if we have a positive case so that we can act proactively to maybe try to help stop spread and try to hopefully prevent a program-wide shutdown if we can. And like I said, do what you can to protect yourself outside of school. So at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Josh Berry to talk about concussions and return to learn with this COVID-19.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. So like I said before, we had to get creative with our concussion protocol. Before we were able to have kids at school full time, so we worked closely with the nurses and the teachers there to get information on if their symptoms had arisen, if they've been having troubles focusing in class and stuff like that. But with the hybrid learning plan, with every other day, we're not going to be able to get those feedback that we did before. So that's why we're going to rely a lot on our parents' communication. This is going to be key and vital into having a successful season here, with contacting you about how they did that day on the computer, with if their symptoms did arise, were they able to complete the full day without having to take any sort of extra precautions of taking longer breaks than what we normally would tell them to take. Obviously with concussions too, we're very concerned about screen time, which was another thing that came up. And with all the work being on the computer, we were going to talk to see if any of the things that they're learning in class could be transferred into more of a paper copy by the teacher. And if it's not able to do that, we were going to, with the computer, make them take frequent breaks, 20 to 15-minute sessions of work, and then a 5 to 10-minute break to see if that helps subside any of the symptoms that they might have. But like I said, it's very key for our communication with our parents to, we're going to be contacting you and seeing how they did that day with their virtual learning and seeing if anything that did arise that would be concerning. And then our return to play, we can have stuff performed at the school or at home, depending on what day they are. Obviously at practice, we'll probably be working with them instead of them going out to practice and participating. And then we're not gonna be able to do anything until they are symptom-free with a full day of school and able to start completing our return to play and being able to pass all of our return to play protocols. So, and then if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free, like I said, to contact me with my number. And then in our athletic training room, we added some more rules. We are requiring a mask for every student and clinician inside our room. We have to make sure that they fill out a COVID questionnaire as well. We have hand sanitizing stations, so they have to literally walk past a hand sanitizer station to be able to come into our room. We're only allowing 4 athletes at a time. This is obviously to cut down on numbers so there's not more chances of exposures. I actually took out a couple of tables in my room to make sure there was more space in between each table. So there's a good 6 to 10 feet in between each area where a person might be. Like we said before, we've already touched on this. If someone's feeling sick or if they are ill, just to make sure if this happened at school, to make sure they maybe had already talked to the nurse. But we also have a station outside of my room in the hallway where there's a bunch of seats. It's kind of like a waiting area, and the seats are spaced out so that they're distant enough, and that the student would come up or would stay out there, and I can come talk to them and see what's going on. And like I said before, here's my number. Call me if anything does arise, or if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to help or try to figure out a plan of action. So.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Josh. I appreciate everything you've done to try to help manage this and, think outside the box in ways to help that return to learn and everything.
Oh, yeah. That's the
athletic training room. So
I appreciate it. Thank you, Andy.
You bet. Obviously our schedules can be found on the CML website, our Ankeny's high school website, as well as the activity calendar. There's also a notify me option on Our School Today where you can sign up for notifications if we do make any changes. I think most of you are probably pretty familiar with that, with our calendars and whatnot. But if you're not, or you have questions, again, feel free to contact our office. I'm more than happy to help with that. Finally, we'll talk about a little bit of finances. Obviously, our athletic department is financed strictly through, ticket sales at gate, fundraising, and donations from donors, as well as our booster organizations. Obviously, this is going to make, everything with COVID and restrictions on attendance and things like that really puts a damper on this. The district does cover our transportation and salaries, but other than that, we are self-funded. And then Booster Club funds come from concessions, membership, and other events that they ran, like the Booster Bash or the cake auction, those type of things. And so a lot of the examples of, expense, we have entry fee, officials, event workers, transportation above and beyond what the district can cover, facility rental if we need it, or improvements, school issued uniforms, weight room projects, those type of things. And I think you guys probably all have a pretty good idea of where we have a lot of our resources used for. So, we're also trying to find ways to fundraise, so that we don't get fatigued on some of the same things all the time, and really want to try to cut back the amount of time that they have to do out of pockets or selling things. A lot of times I like the idea of providing services versus selling things, which is something that we've really tried to do this past year. Normally we would have somebody from our Booster Club on here, but I told them I would cover everything that they typically talk about, which obviously our Booster Club, we would not be able to function at the high level that we do without the support of our Booster Club. And it is a combined Booster Club for both us and Centennial. And the purpose is to strictly to raise funds to support both activities departments. And again, that's through membership concessions. They have apparel, the fundraising events, like I mentioned. So really, I really strongly encourage you to help, especially now. I know we're going to have some really, we'll have some hard times with, funding some things with the amount of restrictions that have been put on us, any additional expenses that have come with that, as well as the loss of revenue that have gone hand in hand with everything that we've had to juggle with COVID this summer and going into this fall. So, Booster Club's doing memberships now. Reach out to ourselves or go to their website at ankenyboosters.com. We'd love to try to get yourself involved in that. Always looking for people to be involved in that. So, you can find contact info on their website, but also if that's something you'd like to get involved with, don't be afraid to contact either one of our offices. Like I said, the Booster Club does a lot for us. In the last 2 years, they have raised $190,000, to support our schools and our entire activities department. That's the amount that each school has received in support the last 2 years. And I kind of went over real briefly on what a lot of those resources were used for. Finally, I know that we, this has been some trying times, and I know they've been frustrating. But I do ask that we maybe give a little extra patience and grace, not only to all of our event workers, to our coaches, but also to our officials. They stepped up in the big way this summer to help ensure that we had a baseball, softball season. And, a lot of them are going to do the same again this fall, and some of them may be at higher risk than others, but are still willing to help support, high school activities because it's something they're passionate about. So, although we may not always agree with what they call, I just hope that we're willing to give them a little more patience and grace, maybe more so than we already have this fall especially, and as we juggle through all the unknowns. So with that said, I would like to thank all of you guys for viewing this and your support in advance and going forward for our Hawks and the Hawkettes as we go into this fall and beyond this 2021 school year. And I know that if we all, band together and do things in support of one another, I know we're going to have another great year. So with that said, I do want to say thank you very much. And again, feel free to contact any of our offices if you have any questions. Thank you.